the late great after I left covering the Sixers, and the last thing I did when I was covering the Sixers, Mike, was the Andrew Bynum Constitution Center press conference. That was the last thing I did before I moved back to the NFL. So I was before Embiid, but the late great Phil Jasner, not Phil, Andy Jasner, used to tell me, they're coddling this guy. This is very early on. This is before he even played. And, it is borne out over this lengthy period of time to the point you're affecting Nick Nurse all those years later. Look, a lot of it's bad luck. You get appendicitis, it's not his fault, but
yeah,
the whole culture of this team, and we used to talk about this. And I think because of the Eagles, and they talk about their culture so much, and Kevin Patullo was just talking about it down in Miami, like it's real, and it's intangible, but it's real. And the culture of this team, at this organization, I'm not even saying the team, it's rotted.
Yeah,
it is rotted from the inside.
We were talking about this yesterday because obviously other teams have lost, had no intention of winning. And it's worked out for them. If you make, so how much is it at bad luck, or how much is it though, the culture somewhere in that building is rotten? Because Oklahoma City is the best team in the league by far. And they were horrible to get here. They were horrible for 2 straight seasons. They won 20 games, and now they're the best team in the league. San Antonio has purposely lost games to try to strategically get players, and it has worked for them. It's not a concept that can't work, but for whatever reason, for this organization, they made a lot of mistakes. And by the way, we went through Oklahoma City's draft classes. They made a ton of mistakes in the draft. You know what helped them? They traded for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and they got 5 first-round picks. Now, of those 5 first-round picks, they're making 1 in this draft, but a lot of those picks did not work out.
Yeah, so and by the way, Shai was like, what, the 11th pick? He wasn't even like the
And by the way,
pick.
The 10th pick was Philadelphia. You know who that guy was? Mikal Bridges, who was later traded. Can you imagine if they drafted Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and traded him for Zaire Smith?
Well, there's so many things. I mean, you look at the New York Knicks and the Nova Knicks. I mean, they could have drafted. They did draft Bridges. They could have drafted Brunson. A lot of people could have drafted Brunson.
Right, the point is, a lot of teams made mistakes. Like people say, the Sixers.
Oh, everybody makes mistakes.
A lot of teams make mistakes, but where's Oklahoma City got that break that worked out for them? The Gilgeous-Alexander deal, where nobody knew that guy was going to be the MVP. The Sixers have not gotten that break. Everything is broken against them. So is that a bad culture, or is that bad luck?
Well, it's not the evaluation. I think people get like to me, it's like X's and O's. Obviously, everybody makes mistakes with evaluation. Now, when you're that high and you're making bad decisions, look, I thought Ben Simmons was the right decision. I was wrong.
Everybody thought Ben Simmons. You weren't wrong. Everybody did. And by the way,
we were all
for 3 years, they made the right decision, and then the guy just fell off the map for whatever reason. Nobody really knows what happened to him.
But you talk about Markelle Fultz, and you have Tatum's there. You talk about even the dumb decisions. I love the kid who's contributing to San Antonio now.
Yeah, Julian.
And you're cutting him. You're cutting him so McMullen can be in the dunk contest. I mean, but I think the biggest problem with this organization is they have enabled a guy who is enormously talented to their detriment. That's the biggest problem. That's where the culture was rotted. And
I will say this, John, you could agree or disagree. You're around Eagles and other teams. Generally, the star player gets different treatment, enabled than everybody else. That's how they get to this point. They get enabled on the 7th grade basketball team. Then they get enabled by the high school coach. Then they get enabled by the college coach. Then they get enabled by the pro coach, and then they take advantage because they get enabled their whole lives. That's
you're right. And I was like the Jimmy Johnson quote, which is, I'll treat you all fairly. I'm not going to treat you all the same. And what he was saying is, look, Emmitt Smith is different than the guy who fell asleep in a meeting room, who's going to get cut. If Emmitt does that, you're not going to cut him. That's fine. That's built into it. They went over and beyond to the point of this year. How many years later? How many years are we into this? It's like Nick Nurse doesn't know who's playing on a given day. You cannot operate that way. You cannot operate. You can say, hey, look, you're not playing, or if you can play, you have to lay down the freaking law to the point where the head coach knows who I'm going to have on a particular day, not 6 hours before the game.
I said I would like to see the Sixers trade Embiid, not for I'm no Embiid hater. I don't want to see him trade it because we got to change it. I just want to see him trade it because I want to see how a big boy organization handles this guy. You're going to play every day. You're not taking days. I want to see if it's really him or the team, because he has insinuated he wants to play and they won't let him. So who's telling the truth here? Because he tweeted out, oh, I guess I'm not playing tonight. And no one really ever explained what happened in that shit. Now, apparently he didn't come to him. He was not at the meeting or blah, 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 whatever. I want to see how a real team, I want to see how a real team handles him and says, you're not going to tell us when you feel like I want to see how that happens, because that would shed some light on this whole situation.
Well, we have a pretty long, and that might have happened at times this year, and it didn't happen enough, to be honest. As you get to the point where you're so far into it, you're fed up with it. But certainly early, we already know. I mean, there's numerous stories about, rehab and not attacking it like he should. And how many times did he get injured? Which, again, you can't legislate injuries, but then he would come back and he's not in shape because he's not doing what he's supposed to do when he was hurt. I mean, there's a long history of that. I mean, and there's a long history of people enabling this guy who's got legendary talent. Nobody's arguing that. But it didn't work because the legendary talent of insert name, Wilt Chamberlain, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, was accompanied by the work ethic. And that's just not here. It's not here.
No, listen, there's very few Michael Jordans in terms of work ethic. I don't think Joel Embiid is in that category, although there are people who have vouched for him about how hard he has worked to get through his numerous injuries. I'm not here to legislate that. However, there's no question that there's something lacking when it comes to whatever it is, that innate it. He just seemingly people have questioned LeBron James whether he has that it. This is LeBron James we're talking about, and people question whether he has that innate.
Well, everybody, and those are people that just
saying it's not
haters.
It's not like ludicrous to think that, hey, Joel Embiid doesn't have whatever it is because he's the only MVP to never get out of the second round. So for whatever reason, listen, some people look at him as soft, and other people would say, well, the guy broke his face 3 times and played with a broken face, torn meniscus, Bell's palsy. I don't know. Is that soft that he tried to play with those things?
Well, I don't say soft. I'll use soft for somebody like Kelly Oubre, who can't make a layup when he gets bumped, down and, under that's what I consider soft. I don't consider him soft. I consider him like when he's hurt. I think the biggest issue with him is, all right, I'm hurt. I'm not going to be playing. I'm going to do whatever he does. And he doesn't prepare for when he's back. Whatever you want to call it. I
don't know. It's hard because you see a guy, okay, so he misses time because he has this knee problem. Now, the knee problem was a legitimate problem where he didn't think he was going to play again. He ends up playing. Then he gets to the point where he comes out and says, the knee problems are behind me. Like, whatever they did, he's like, we found something that I don't have any problem. He's now
the doctor got a lot of props for a while. The doc.
And then he gets kicked in the oblique, and he has to miss 13 games with an oblique injury. So I don't know. How do you legislate? Like, is he soft because he got an oblique injury? Like, is that his fault?
No, I don't. Like I said, I don't use that term. But the one, and Chip Kelly made it famous in Philadelphia. It wasn't a Chip Kelly quote, but it's true. Best ability is availability. Hey, look, I love the talent. You're not available enough. Where Daryl Morey went astray is the extension. And look, at the time, everything looked, oh, he's got to do it. Well, no, he doesn't. You could sell high. That was the New York Knicks before they got Karl Anthony Towns. And that's the New York Knicks of Leon Rose. They would have gave you a mint for Joel Embiid at that time. A mint. That's where you got to be bold. You got to be bold.
Back to, though, John, as I said before, this was the golden goose. You're not letting the golden goose walk out the door when you are making money hand over fist. And this is where people blame Morey. I say the ownership said, no, we are not getting rid of him.
Well, I'll say this. If it's ownership, then it's Josh Harris. I'll say, well, whomever. So whomever, you have to be bold. Nobody knows better than you that
connect these dots, okay? They are selling Paul George to come here. And now people blame Morey for this deal as well. Do you think Daryl Morey went to Dr. J and said, hey, Doc, can you help me try to recruit Paul George to come to the Sixers? That's an ownership thing. The ownership says, we got to get somebody here. I'm going to get Dr. J to help me recruit this guy. To get Paul George to come here, part of the deal was I love
Paul George. He's a hell of a player.
I love Paul George. As one of my favorite players in the league at the time. Now, that being said, to get Paul George here,